Okay, so Seth, so birthright was pretty good, and what was the most meaningful part of the birthright experience?
I think the most meaningful part for me was probably the opportunity to interact with just Israeli people. I mean, going to the sites, seeing things, that was all very nice, but it was actually talking to folks on the ground, hearing about what they did, what their lives were, and there's always going to be something in common, and beyond just being Jewish, right? I mean, I knew that was probably going to be something. We wound up meeting these soldiers who were goofballs, and so we were just playing around for a few days, and it just meant a lot to see that we had a lot of shared values that were part of Judaism, that I think were part of just the culture we've come from, thousands of years of sort of these ways of seeing the world. And that felt great, knowing that I could go back and I know that I could meet people there, make friends, truly make connections, though. That meant a lot.
But you said you thought about, maybe in your dreams you said, maybe, what about living in Israel there now? Because all about birthright is about getting people interested in moving to Israel, I guess.
Yeah.
So how much did you think about it?
I've never...
Wait, first of all, let's talk about what you do, and, you're being a librarian, you're married, single, and...
Right, so I'm single, which is easy. I just moved up to Utica a year ago, but so I'm a rare books librarian, so I work with old books,
cool.
hundreds of years, as it were. And so I look a lot at manuscript practice, which obviously, of course, in Judaism, we learn a lot about that from being, when we're kids, right? Learning about sofers. So I look at manuscript practice and early printing. And so, actually, one of the first things I did when I showed up on campus was there was a Hillel director there, campus rabbi, who met me and said, "Hey, let's do an event, where we bring in things from special collections from the library. We bring in, it was for suffice it to say, we have the scroll on campus that is." It's kind of an interesting history. The Torah scroll on campus came from a mental asylum.
Which campus is this?
Hamilton College.
Hamilton College.
Yeah.
It's in Massachusetts?
It's Utica. That's Utica, right.
In New York State.
Exactly, in New York State. And so the scroll came from a mental asylum, a state asylum, 19th century, that had previously come from a Jewish community in the area. And
mental asylum from New York State?
Yeah. But it was
in their collection for some crazy reason.
It was for the inmates. Actually.
Oh, it's for the inmate. It was a Torah scroll for the inmates of an asylum,
right?
Mental asylum.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was, back in the 19th century, these were sort of residential communities, and so if there were a group of Jews,
it was dated from the 19th century, you say?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this scroll was actually made, we think, in Romania. But it looks like several different scrolls that have been put together.
Yeah.
There's multiple different hands of different sofers. There's soferim. There's different kinds of technique that are on display. It's a really interesting, artifact. And when you're reading it, that's one of the things we love. I go sometimes with the students on service. I like to join them. And
go to students to the what?
The students, they'll have services. They'll have
the synagogue service.
Yeah. And when they bring out the Torah, sometimes they'll bring me up and they'll say, "Oh, could you tell us about this section?" Because you can really see sometimes those where there's a difference. You'll come to a break where two pieces of parchment come together, and one is clearly from one Torah scroll and one is from another one. That this was pieced together somehow. And I'm not an expert on the scroll, on Torahs per se, but
can you read any Hebrew or? Very basic. You can read but not understand, kind of thing.
Yeah, I can read. The vocabulary that I have is all liturgical, right? I couldn't speak in modern Hebrew.
So you could read from the Siddur?
Yeah, exactly.
You know how to daven.
Yeah, I know how to daven, and I know what I'm saying. I'm not just making sounds with my mouth.
Okay, so you know how to use the Siddur. You really know it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Torah scrolls should be not so hard for you to, if you wanted to, you could probably be a Baal Koreh. I mean, if that was on your radar, I mean, you could read the Hebrew. And
Yeah.
it's a very hard thing to do. Baal Koreh, it's a very lot of hours.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm just starting doing that more.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I always did it for my personal, reading the Parsha, chanting it before,
Yeah.
But I'm a musician also. But the whatever. I like to talk about myself, but we're in an interview here about the situation. But just because you said Torah scroll, I get all excited.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing. So what's going to be done with the scroll now? It's just in the collection, and that's it.
It's
in the synagogue. It's at the Utica College.
Yeah.
It's at Utica.
Yeah.
And it's being used in services.
Yeah, absolutely. So the students at Hamilton College.
It was checked out. No?
Yeah, it's been.
Wow.
There's a Chabad house
in Utica.
A local, and so they've looked through it.
So he says it's kosher.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does it matter? Anyhow, so the kosher police are Rabbi Betzel. Betzalel is my Hebrew name.
Scroll, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So now back to. Okay, you have an amazing job, and you're still single. So when people so there's a window of opportunity kind of thing.
Yes.
But the problem is you have an amazing job, and you like where you're living.
Yeah.
That's not a problem, but that's like a situation. It's,
right.
When you say people come, move to Israel, and Benjamin Netanyahu comes along and says, "Come to Israel. We need warm bodies." Kind of.
Right.
We give the brain something. So the other thing is, there's the thing about Aliyah is that I met a lot of people who are, for lack of a better term, kind of losers. And they needed, let's say in a positive way, they fall in between the cracks here in the U.S. and they're given an opportunity to start their life over. They're not all. Some of them, some people are running away from the police. There's kind of interesting stories to read in the newspaper about. But not talking about that. We're talking about because a lot of people come to Israel and they don't know what to do in America, and they come to Israel to either to trip out on spirituality, and then the question is whether they can make a living and contribute to society. But then there are other people who, yes, they come for spiritual reasons, but they're reasonably together, and they can, hold jobs and contribute to their communities and so forth. A lot of people, most people who make Aliyah are religious. So if they're religious light, fine. If they're super duper religious Haredi, they could also they could go and join a community, and that also bolsters the land of Israel.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the best kind of people to make Aliyah are people with careers, with aspirations, with goals, and they see they could build this in together with the Jewish world in Israel.
Yeah.
Thing. So, do you ever think about exploring the library? There's a lot of wonderful libraries there. Absolutely. Wonderful manuscripts. You saw the Dead Sea Scrolls. How could you not? My handwriting. I do calligraphy also in Torah scrolls.
Oh, very good.
And there's this Chinese sofer. Sorry, I can't say Chinese. I got to say Asian. It's kind of ridiculous, but I think it's important to be sensitive to if people want to be called. But anyhow, we grew up saying Chinese until because they're not from China, they're from Korea or Japan or Thailand or whatever. So, but so we say Asian. So there was this Asian convert at the Sephardic Beit Midrash Sephardi. Is the main. Sephardic, one of the main Sephardic yeshivas in the Old City, and he converted. He's from China, and he was the best. His hand was like a printing press. Oh. He did. She showed me his 5th Megillat Esther, and he looked at my handwriting, and he said, and he's an expert, and I'm like average amateur, and he said. He looked at it, laughed, and he said, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Which is very tactful. Because people, Winston Churchill, the beloved Winston Churchill said, tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell in a way that they're going to look forward to the trip. So he was saying Dead Sea Scrolls. Wow, I can write like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I was like, that's what he means. Okay. Anyhow, so there's a lot of manuscript stuff. So maybe someday, who knows? But then again, What do you think is the biggest people you know people who made Aliyah?
I do.
And you know people who thought about it and didn't, and other people who they're very culturally Jewish or even religious, and they just don't want to.
Yeah.
So what would you say about the whole thing? What makes people make Aliyah? What makes a success and what not?
I think I've asked friends who made Aliyah, and I've only had 3 friends make Aliyah who are still there. I had another friend who moved, came back. And it seems like it's a very intangible reason. They can't necessarily articulate it in words. It's a feeling that they tell me about and I respect it. It's not a feeling I've yet felt, and so I don't intimately understand what it means, but I recognize there's power in it. If that makes sense. They
feel a certain longing, a certain like connection.
There's this affinity.
It's a very personal thing that you can't really explain.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. But I'll put it in a different way too. There was an Israeli man I met. I used to live in the UK. I used to work for a university in the UK, and I met him there. And he was you can tell me the term, I'm sure. It's like a cultural emissary from Israel.
Shaliach.
Yeah, Shaliach.
Shaliach. Yeah.
And so he said to me, Seth, he said, I grew up in Israel. I've lived my whole life there, and I came to Manchester, and it seemed to me like I would meet Jews, and I would tell them, I'll move to Israel, and they're just going to want to go. And what he realized, he said to me, is that, there's a lot of reasons to live in Israel, but he recognizes there's also a lot of reasons to live elsewhere.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And in many ways, having lived and experienced anti-Semitism, I think as many Jews in America would, I feel like I can do a lot of good being here, being Jewish. I'm not, a faucet going around, I don't wrap tefillin every morning, I don't daven every evening, that's not my practice necessarily, but I'm Jewish. And I think,
of course. Look, I wasn't implying that,
Oh, no, not at all.
No, but saying people moving to, you can be part of the Jewish community and contribute. It doesn't have to be the chassid with the beard and the tefillin, obviously.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying in terms of, moving to Israel, that doesn't... I see how you're putting it together. You're doing your part here, you're saying.
Right now, I see myself doing my part here. Yeah. And that's never permanent, right? I think we're always learning and we're always experiencing, and I know my opinions can change. Plenty of opinions of mine have changed over the years. So I would never say it's definite that I will stay here and that's that. I've always been open. It's, I think, a matter of the jobs.
It's about the jobs.
It's about the jobs.
Somebody came. Our first interview was with a music producer who moved to the Old City. He used to be the president of Geffen Records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're named Ronnie Vance. He lives in the Old City. He's a friend.
Huh.
And he looks cool and he speaks well. He's well spoken, interesting stuff. And he said, "So why did you move to Israel?" He said, "Why did you move in Dafka to the Old City?"
Yeah.
Dafka means actually, right?
Oh,
He moved actually Dafka to the Old City. So he said, Neil, to the boss, he says, "Neil, it's all about a girl." So I'm saying it's all about either a girl or a job, or there was somebody says, "Hey, we got a great job there," it's like maybe I'll go.
I mean, if someone said I could do the same thing I do right now in Israel, gosh, that would be the kind of thing where you'd say, let me look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but then there's those, you could find the dream job, but sometimes it's a very difficult culture. You're all of a sudden, you're living surrounded by Middle Easterners, and there's a culture, and it's difficult for people from the U.S. to deal with such a different mindset. But if we're talking about simple people, that can have hearts of gold and wonderful, and other times. But the appearance is that a lot of people don't immigrate because it's like, I don't want to have to deal with Israeli a-holes, basically, And so what would you say about that?
Yeah, there is I think it's an unfortunate stereotype there is, the Israeli a-hole.
No, but people meet them. There's the ones
Yeah.
that
There are guys who I've met where I've said, "Wow, that guy is a jerk."
there's
Sure.
also the ones who stick out more because they make a point of like being heard, and
Yeah, but there's good people everywhere. There's kind people everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's finding your people. It's finding people who you feel a connection to.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think it would be possible to move to Israel. Well, when I've been to Israel, I've met people who I liked, who I got along with. So I know they're there. That's not a fear or a concern. That wouldn't be what would scare me away.
Okay.
And I should say, right now I'm working with an Israeli, he's a professor at Tel Hai University,
Okay.
up north. And we've been working on an exhibition that'll be opening this fall up at Hamilton College's campus.
Okay. And what's it about?
Edward Robinson, there's Robinson's Arch at
Sure, yeah.
the old, right,
At the hotel.
At the hotel, yeah. So Robinson, this guy Edward Robinson, was one of the founders of biblical archaeology. This idea of looking at the Torah, looking at the Old Testament, the New Testament, I guess too, and finding physical evidence.
I got it.
Right, it's not my field.
It's a very well known thing
Right.
in Israel. Biblical archaeology, or even later, based on texts.
Yeah. And so he was a student at Hamilton College. We have his archive. We have his personal library. So we're putting together an exhibition sort of about his life and his work.
Uh-huh.
So, and this professor, Chaim Goren, is really, a world expert on Edward Robinson and his life. He's written multiple books, and it's been a real pleasure working with him and collaborating. So I know that there are phenomenal scholars in Israel who, if I were a librarian at a university there, let's say, would be wonderful to work with.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of universities there, but again, the thing is to find your place.
Right.
And something for you. So it's basically what it's going to take for you to move. It's two things. Like I said, it's a sweet Jewish girl and a really nice job. Very exciting, something that you can put your heart and soul into.
Yeah, that's I know I have my Judaism within me.
Yeah.
That's something I'm going to carry with me.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It's going to be some other external motivator that would have to bring me.
Okay, but you don't have any inner yearning for the land of Israel that you potentially know about. A little bit. Is it? How would you describe that? Is it just something that you can say, just I don't have it, or yeah, I really feel that, but it's not in my.
I'll put it this way: when I first went to Israel, I immediately felt like I belonged, and that's a rare feeling, to go a place you've never been and just say, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
That means a lot. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
So there is that affinity. Yeah.
You feel like you get the feeling this is the place of my people.
Yeah.
And it's worked for we blood, sweat, and tears. Today's the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. When you say that, why was the temple destroyed? First one was destroyed from idolatry and forbidden sex and murder, bloodshed, and the second temple was just senseless hatred. And so we messed up. The Jewish history. What is it? We messed up. Sorry, God. Let's eat. Whatever. They tried to. Whatever was it? They tried to kill us.
We beat them.
Let's eat. Okay.
Yeah.
The other one is in Ma Judson's in Maine. Ma Judson's Motor Lodge on the way to Sugarloaf ski area when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Sugarloaf.
I know Sugarloaf.
Yeah, but there was this old, mom and pop ranking tank motel. It said on the placemats, you have these paper placemats that are funny.
Oh yeah.
And it said like world religions. It's like Buddha says shit happens, and the Jewish says, why is this shit always happening to us?
Right.
Okay. So, but say again, the 9th of Av. So now, we have people like you contributing here in your way. Maybe contributing there someday. We'll see. You're work in progress, and and it's like everybody is building Jerusalem. You're building Jerusalem with what you're doing. Look at this. You found a Torah scroll and you brought it to the right place, and took it from the insane asylum to the collection of the asylum.
That wasn't me. That was
but you had a part in it. You had a part in it. You're part. It's even little things, and to get it to Amherst, and whatever you're doing, just your love of your culture and being a Jew is something that's building something here that is actually building something there, because it's keeping the spark alive, keeping the hope alive.
Yeah. Where I live in a very small village in New York State.
Yeah.
And there are barely enough Jews to make a minyan. I'll put it that way,
okay.
right?
So you just done like high holidays, you have minyan or something?
Right. People come in from surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you have a synagogue in your village.
We have. Well, there's the Chabad house. That's
the Chabad
de
house.
facto. Yeah.
Okay.
So being there, I feel like when I have students who are Jewish, they can see me as a professional, and I can live somewhere that's as small as it is, and they're still Jews. It's a good reminder for them that wherever they go, they're going to find their people. And it's also, frankly, a good reminder when I meet these people in the village who've never met a Jew, that it's a good opportunity to tell them that we're still here, and let them know that we're regular people like them too.
Well, just look at the absolutely most beautiful countryside. I can understand. I have a yearning for this place too, and I'm not saying I might not move back here too. There's these kind of people said I put in 28 years. Now I'm moving back.
Right.
My kids are in Israel. I'd like them to be here, be with me. I feel like, but I feel the question is, God has different plans for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very, very Seth. Name again.
Gottleib. Seth Gottleib.
Okay. Cut. Okay. Ariel. Now we're going to start splices. And Seth Gottlieb. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you as well.
God bless you.